Software testing is a wide pool of knowledge and used in everyday processes for software projects all around the world. But the types integrated in those processes depend on various factors like requirements, budget, timeline, expertise, and suitability. Integrating the right types of software testing into those processes plays a key role to the success of the product. In this lecture, we will speak about categorization of software testing types and software testing methods, and I will give some examples. Throughout the whole course, we will dive deeper into more important and specific software testing types, and I will explain them in detail. But for now, an overview shall just be enough.
Software testing is broadly divided into two major categories: functional testing and non-functional testing, both categories holding a various amount of different testing types. In addition to functional and non-functional testing, I like to see maintenance testing as an extra category. Originally, maintenance testing belongs to the non-functional testing. However, especially in continuous testing, maintenance testing plays a crucial role because our product is generally released in very short release cycles, and we know already that requirements will be changed or added. Whenever we want to know what a system does, we use functional testing types. They ensure that the system is functioning as users are expecting it to. In continuous testing, functional tests are an executable encoding of the specification of the user visible behaviors. There are many functional testing types on various levels that validate either granular parts of the system or broader aspects of a fully integrated system. But all of those types are typically processed before any non-functional testing is performed. Functional tests can face different directions. Some functional testing types are more end-user facing, in which case the test specification is mapped to a specific business requirement, or they are development facing, where tests describe and validate how internal pieces of functionality are implemented. Typical examples of functional testing types are unit testing, component testing, interface testing, integration testing, smoke testing, sanity testing, user acceptance testing, localization testing, globalization testing, interop testing, and many more. There's a long list of functional testing types for almost every different purpose. Most of these types can be automated with modern tools. Okay, so how does functional testing differ from non-functional testing? While functional testing types determine if the system does what it's supposed to, non-functional tests determine how well the system performs the task it was designed to do. Let me give you an example. You have an application which takes a small data entry, which works from the functional point, but it takes 5 minutes to persist the data. Would you say this is a well-performing system? Maybe not. And if we would cap the persisting time to, let's say, 30 seconds maximum, we could write a test scenario to validate it. Non-functional tests are usually performed at the end of our delivery process, as they are mostly executed against the target system. Although we have staging environments for dedicated tests, they usually do not mirror the target environment completely, mostly because of cost reasons. However, our non-functional tests try to avoid negative customer experience, so they need to validate the same system and environment the user will use. This is one of the reasons why we set those tests after the functional testing is done and passed. Non-functional tests shall help us to validate the non-functional requirements, which describe the quality of our product. Nowadays, non-functional requirements are as important as functional requirements because they describe the direct user experience in terms of performance, availability, security, and more. Okay, I mentioned already some examples for non-functional testing, and here are some more, like endurance testing, load testing, scalability testing, reliability testing, portability testing, and many, many more. You can say whenever you find an ability testing type, most likely it belongs to non-functional testing. In the last section of this lecture, I would like to speak about different testing methods. In order to better classify the different testing types, they are also evaluated based on the test method used. The test method refers to the so-called box approach and describes the engineer point of view during the test development. We generally find the following test methods: Whitebox, Blackbox, and Greybox testing. Whitebox testing is a structural testing process which evaluates the code and the internal structure of a program. That means we do have knowledge and visibility into the source code level. In a typical whitebox test like unit testing or component testing, An engineer would develop tests to cover cases from a consideration of the logical flow of a program. Whitebox testing shall help to test the program paths, that each program statement is processed at least once in a test case. Blackbox testing is a form of software testing in which the functionality of an application is tested without considering the code or internal structure. Any testing type that examines the application interface like an API or the graphical user interface is considered a blackbox test. This category includes a wide range of test types, including functional test and user acceptance test. Blackbox tests are generally used for functional testing of specific features of an application. The test cases are written with the intended requirements of the application in mind, and we validate from a given input the expected output without deeply knowing what's really going on inside. There's also the so-called Greybox testing, which combines the advantages of Blackbox and Whitebox testing. This relatively new approach writes the test for the system under test before the code to be tested is actually implemented. The procedure therefore differs essentially from conventional programming. With the Blackbox testing, Greybox testing have in common that there's no knowledge about internal structure when creating the test, because the actual program code has not yet been written. The common feature with the Whitebox testing is that the test is always written by the developers themselves, so that the developer knows which requirement the code to be implemented must meet. The approach of Greybox testing is mainly used for test-driven development.
Let's wrap it up. In the last 5 minutes, I gave you some categorization of the different testing types and testing methods that gives you an understanding about the purposes and approaches of the different testing types.